First off, for having me, really appreciate it. Andhra, as all of you know, has gone through its own evolutionary process. We are now a new state. This is the fourth time around that we are building a capital city. We've had a bad phase between 19 and 24, but three distinct reasons why Andhra Pradesh post 24 is again able to position itself on the world map. One is our Chief Minister. The first point is because Mr. Naidu is known for building cities, Mr. Naidu is known for building new ecosystems, and now he's doing it all over again in Andhra Pradesh. So he's a leader with a proven track record. Two is speed of doing business. So let's talk about what we've done for Google. Right, the entire data center ecosystem that we are now building up in Visakhapatnam, the pace at which that we are able to do is unheard of, where various other countries are actually envious about. Let's talk about the ArcelorMittal project that we have now, that we've grounded in Andhra Pradesh in about 17 months. Even getting the environmental clearance, land, R&R closed, 3,000 acres given to them. It's going to be one of India's largest FDI investment in green steel. So speed, I can't emphasize the importance of speed, and that's again what sets us apart from other states. Third is what I call a double engine bullet train sarkar. So while in India you have a lot of states which call about double engine train sarkar, I believe that Andhra Pradesh is the only state that has two, one of course our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and of course Mr. Naidu ji together, who are able to drive agenda positively and able to ground investments positively. And that's something that's very unique to us. So we have the wherewithal to also positively move the needle in terms of policy. So to get the data center investment to India, we had to change things like permanent establishment, the regulations around it, the taxation around it. We got it done. So these are three distinct reasons why Andhra Pradesh is able to move the needle and make some meaningful impact in the space of 50 years.
So thank you for that. And there's a lot to dig into over there because it's not as easy as just, I guess, saying speed just when you're actually practically implementing it. But let's talk about the Google situation a little bit. Can you give us a little bit of color, background to it, how it came about, and what it is that you'll achieve with Google in the state?
So everything starts with a WhatsApp message in Andhra Pradesh. So Google is no different. So as soon as the government, we got elected back, it was very important that we take a position in AI, and AI is powered by data centers. So our entire belief is that every industrial revolution has created more jobs than it has replaced, but in geographies that were ready for it. And AI is here. It is going to change the way we're going to communicate, the way we're going to work. And I believe that the state has to embrace it. Otherwise, you're going to be replaced. As simple as that. So when Mr. Naidu was very clear, we'll take a position in it, and close to about, I think our policy talks about 6.5 gigawatts of data center position. There are usual suspects, and one of it was Google. And from our first conversation with, now I can openly say with Vikas, who's the head of infra, to actually breaking ground was about 13 months. And we worked with them. We worked with them on the policy, we worked with them on the cable landing station, we worked with them on identifying land. And we also worked with trying to educate the locals. I'm not saying I've done it all, but we're in the process. The importance and the strategic importance of actually having a data center in India and more so in Andhra Pradesh on the eastern seaboard, given the geopolitical situation that we're going through, is very important. Now, how do I look at it as a data center in terms of driving my economy and job creation? One, geopolitically it works. It's important, strategically important. Sovereign cloud is critical. Having cable landing stations in Visakhapatnam plays a very important role in building the larger AI and IT ecosystem. Three, for me, it's not just about the data centers, but it's all about the entire ancillary ecosystem that we're going to build. It could be the power electronics, the air conditioning, the whole 9 yards. So I'm working with Google and few other partners who are looking at investing now in Andhra Pradesh to building the entire ecosystem. So I want to capture the entire value and all the jobs that can be created in the ecosystem.
So that's a really interesting point you're bringing up, because I think that large companies have a little bit of an advantage. If you're Google or if you're some other big name, you're able to get heard in terms of what your needs are. But sometimes smaller companies don't have that. So how are you dealing with the regulatory cholesterol that we have quite often in India to make sure that the not Googles of the world have that same speed and that same time to market and breaking ground and are able to complete that ecosystem for you?
I think that's a very, very valid question. For us, it's about how do we simplify the entire process? Two, how do we deliver on speed and provide an environment of a stable regulatory framework? So these are the three S's that I follow. So as you rightly said, as important as the Googles of the world are, the SMEs are more important because they create the maximum number of jobs and impact at the field level. So under the leadership of our SME minister, we are now looking at deemed permissions. So you can start your business, 3 years to get all your permissions. And how can we make it all online? You know, the Jan Vishwas bill enables us to do a lot of magic in that. So we did a lot of deregulation of, Nala taxation and so on and so forth. So we've done a lot of work in demystifying, as you said, the regulatory cholesterol. And that's something that I believe we just started off. So honestly, I don't have all the answers. But the intent is very clear and the state is taking the right steps in that direction. And of course, technology is here and we can use technology a lot more better in terms of delivering that. So these three S's, I believe, can really deliver to that entrepreneur who's going to create 10 jobs, 50 jobs, 100 jobs. For me, that's very, very important.
So talk to me a little bit about how you go about this business of bringing stakeholders along. So you said in the case of Google, you convinced stakeholders that this was in the best interests of the state and they came along. So how are you doing that in other areas? What are the efforts that are being made?
See, the most important thing we all need to understand is that any individual will have an emotional attachment with the land that they currently own. So as a state, when I want to bring in a large project and it's that farmer's land or that individual's land that I will require, we need to have a very open conversation in terms of the benefits, one, of the project, two, the kind of ecosystem we're going to build, the benefits that their family will get in terms of job creation. Third is fair compensation to the land and a very transparent model. What Andhra has done under the leadership of Mr. Naidu since 1995, if I may, is to showcase this. So people trust. If there's no trust, then you're not going to succeed. And Mr. Naidu has consistently done this very well. So if you look at ArcelorMittal project, it's 3,000 acres, 660 families. That once we delivered on our promise, they said, we are ready. And they moved. No issues whatsoever. Greenfield Steel City agreement. Because people know that it is ArcelorMittal, it's going to happen. It's not hoarding of land. So I think giving that sense of confidence to your electorate is going to be very, very critical. Coming to data center, I think it's very prevalent to have this conversation because they're completely two extreme views. Is data center good? Well, let me rephrase. There's an extreme view that data center is bad and there's an extreme view that data center is good. So it's important to have conversations with people who believe that data centers are not good. Like, why do they believe that? Few examples of the US is a bad example for us in the country because we have one nation, one grid, which the US doesn't have. If you look at water, close to 3,000 TMCs of Godavari water flows into the sea every year. That's equivalent to the water consumption of whole of Vietnam, the whole of Brazil. The 6.5 gigawatts that we intend to build out in data center requires 1 TMC. So in comparison, a 1 gigawatt thermal plant consumes 7 times more water than 1 gigawatt data center. So all of us are talking about the data center, but no one's talking about the thermal plant. Like, just to put things in context, right? So it's important to have these conversations. It's important to have this conversation with the youngsters because it's their future. And rightfully so, they should have a voice at the table. So we are engaging with them. So my member of parliament, who represents that parliament where all the data centers are coming up in Visakhapatnam, is meeting with all these youngsters. He's having an open conversation with them to understand what's their fears. And then how can we sort of learn from it, and if there's any zoning or anything that needs to be further fine-tuned, we're willing to do that. But it's important to bring all of them across the table and give them a voice.
Thank you for that. So I actually want to switch gears, but it's linked to some of the things you've said, right? again, you can't pick up a newspaper without people worrying about an AI new dawn, apocalypse, productivity engine, whatever, however you want to characterize it, right? And you've said that you think that this is going to lead to productivity gains and create more jobs than it destroys. Just elaborate on that a little bit for us and how you're thinking about that. Because it's pertinent to the overall India question, right?
Absolutely. No, it's more important for India because we were the beneficiaries of the entire IT revolution, right? And definitely certain jobs will get replaced, no second thoughts about it. So let me give you a few examples of how we've approached it. Now, politically, as a political party, we are one of the most digitized political party. If not one, I'll be number 2 in India. We have phenomenal data sets. So we've started deploying AI in our own library. We have a digital library now. So if I want to come do a press meet or I want to do this fireside chat, I'm using AI as a guide and saying, okay, what are my policies so that I can have a refresher. So what does that mean? My knowledge center, my members of my team should upgrade their skills, focus more on research than simple press releases. That's one simple way of looking at things. Second is sort of revamping our entire curriculum and tuning it for the next generation technologies. It could be AI, it could be machine learning, it could be quantum technologies. That's very, very important. And I believe that my chief minister had that vision, and that's why he gave me both education and IT. He said, no, marry both together and create youth that are actually ready to not only sort of seek jobs, but actually end up creating jobs. So this is the kind of work that we need to build and the kind of ecosystem that we need to build as a nation.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to switch gears and move to another topic, center state. So, when we have conversations with policymakers at the center, sometimes they'll say to us, look, one of the issues over here is that the reach of the center only goes so far, just by definition, just in terms of how India is structured. And then the states need to take over. You've talked about the relationship between your chief minister and Prime Minister Modi and how they're working together. Elaborate a little bit about what you think the relationship should be like, and how is Andhra different from other states in India?
See, if you look at it, the policy framework gets set in Delhi, but execution happens in Gully. In the streets of India is where execution happens. And that's the subjects of the state, that's the subjects of the chief minister and the ministers under him, his team. Government of India, in all intent, is creating vibrant policies to execute. But then states have to own up to it. Some states are doing a better job than other states. Now, Andhra Pradesh, under the leadership of my chief minister, is doing an amazing job. So if you look at AMCA project, which is the 5th generation fighter jet, India's attempt at a stealth fighter jet, which is now getting tendered out. We got to know about this project way back in 2025, March. I met Raksha Mantri ji, I gave a letter and he looked at me saying, how do you know about the project? I laughed. And then he understood. And after that, we just followed it up. And once he called to inform my Honorable CM saying that, yes, we are ready. And is Andhra ready? In 36 days, 600 acres was pooled in Puttaparthi, where we have an airport, an airstrip rather. And it was delivered to Government of India free of cost for the AMCA project. Now, that is the speed that Government of India is looking for. So when I hear stories that, Government of India is favoring this state over that state, it's absolutely false. Government of India is favoring states that are moving against states that are unable to deliver at the pace at which other states are delivering. Because at the end of the day, they also have X amount of time, 24 hours. So they're like, okay, Andhra kaam ho jayega. Or any other state, things get done. So let's work with them. So that's the pace at which we need to now work. And it's not just about investments, right? That's the other point. Government of India is actually looking for people who push back on policy. So as one of the important partners of NDA, we give open feedback on policies. Closed door, of course, but we give feedback. And I must state this, that they are receptive, they're willing to hear us out. And in quite a few areas, they're willing to even change the policy, amend the policy. So that's the biggest blessing that we have today.
Thank you. That's helpful. Reforms. So, going back to the responsiveness of the government over the last since I think Diwali last year, we've seen cumulatively the biggest wave of reform since 1991, right? Whether it was in labor, nuclear, GST, the list goes on. We've also seen a number of trade deals that have been pushed through. So that, and the government has got 23 priority areas of the economy that the intention is to focus on going forward. When you look at your priority list in Andhra, what are your priorities for reform? What's necessary?
So I'll reform any law, I'll change any law, I'll reform any process that will create jobs, and more jobs. That is the single priority of the Andhra Pradesh government. AI is here, robotics is here, advanced manufacturing is here, dark factories are here, it's reality. But there are enough sectors that are going to create jobs. So for me, as I said, the 3S is going to be very, very critical for me as a state to deliver. If I want to create, 20 lakh jobs, I always get confused between lakh and million. So 20 lakh jobs. 5 years, 20 lakh jobs is our single priority. And I believe that is the most important thing, and that's also the priority of the Honorable Prime Minister, is creating jobs. And reforms in that direction is going to be very, very critical.
So again, linked to the job creation, perhaps it's a linkages from there to manufacturing. So we are 10 years into Make in India, and manufacturing has seen notable developments in certain areas. Electronics is one example, for instance. But overall, it still is about 15% of GDP. Yeah? Now, being the optimist, I think that my views is that means that there's a lever that we can pull. How are you thinking about manufacturing in your state, and what role does that play in job creation in your path forward for Andhra?
So my humble opinion is that the way we've approached manufacturing needs a reform. So I believe in the power of clusters. I believe that states should take up one sector, or each state takes us 5, 10 sectors, but double downs on that sector. So I'll give you an example. Andhra Pradesh is building 22 clusters. Data centers, pharma, medical devices manufacturing, IT of course, compressed biogas, UCG, underground coal gasification, to quantum computing, all the way up to glass city, space city. We have a defense city that's in making. Now, why am I sharing this with you is it's important to build a cluster where within about a 150, 200 kilometer radius, the entire manufacturing ecosystem comes about. So as important as it is for me to assemble a TV, now can I get the plastic housing manufacturing? Can I get the thermocol manufacturer? Can I get the guy who prints the manuals to also be in part of this ecosystem? That is going to be very, very critical. If that is, I believe, is something that we should learn from various other countries. So this is what I call verticals. And how do I build the entire verticals in the ecosystem? Horizontal is where my ministry comes in: education, skilling, testing, certification. This is where I play a much larger role. So you look at Government of India's policy around ITIs, revamping them. Now ArcelorMittal is the first project that's taking off in India. And Aditya and I had a conversation where he said, now let's build a material sciences university as part of the entire steel ecosystem that we're building. There are like 5, 6 steel companies that are coming about in that geography. So I said, we need material science university. So this kind of vertical and horizontal tight integration is going to be very, very critical if India has to really deliver on the promise of Make in India.
How did you choose those verticals for Andhra? What was the thought process?
One is intent of my CM. 2 is, the geographic location and the minerals available. So Andhra is the second longest coastline in India. This itself fends itself up for, port-led development. And then manufacturing historically based on strength. So because proximity to Bangalore is one part of the state, proximity to Chennai, proximity to Hyderabad. So leveraging on the strengths of the other cities or even on the weaknesses, we're able to build new ecosystems. So that's really helped us. So glass city. Now, why did I share about the glass experience? Globally, it's proven that as per capita income goes up, so does per capita consumption of glass. It could be facades or so on and so forth. And there's no real glass ecosystem. We have silicon already available, which is one of the main ingredients of glass. So I started headhunting the companies that can come and build the entire glass ecosystem going on. Space, because we have Sriharikota, which is a launch pad for India, it naturally fends itself for space. So pharma, we already had an ecosystem in northern Andhra. We said, let's double down on it. Steel, because Vishaka steel plant already is there. I said, let's double down on building a larger steel ecosystem. So this is how we've gone about building it and sort of looked at decentralized development. We're not looking at building just one city, but actually 3 economic regions, which will deliver on our promise.
Actually, can you, I was going to come to Amravati, would you mind talking to us a little bit about how you think about this and how this fits in with the ambitions of the state?
So for all of you here, you know Mr. Naidu, he's built Cyberabad. So he is a big believer of leveraging the ecosystem of existing cities while he builds a greenfield city. Cyberabad was more a brownfield city in greater sense, but this time around he's going about building an entire greenfield city. 33,000 acres in phase 1 has been pooled from farmers. Huge investments going in terms of building the entire social ecosystem and so on and so forth. We're doing education, hospitality, hospitals, the entire government ecosystem, quantum computing, life sciences, all coming in this new city. And this is, I believe, India's latest attempt in building a world-class city. And we are actually implementing technologies like district cooling, where how power is a service. All of us we don't have gas generators at home to generate power. We use it from the grid. In similar fashion, we are going to do cooling as a service. So we're using latest technologies to deliver on this. So it is our attempt to showcase to the world that it's not different parts of the world that can build a new city, but India can actually do it. Of course, we've gone through our own sets of challenges with change of government in 19. The project was slowed down, but we are back in full blown. And the government core will be delivered by 2028 and will be dedicated to the nation. WIT is already there, SRM is already there. BITS is building their quantum campus in Amravati. So it will be operational in 18 months. So that's the kind of work that's actually happening.
I want to go back to your mandate on education. Culture of innovation in India. Now, I refuse for a nanosecond to believe that Indians are not capable of being innovative. We know that we are. We demonstrate that in other parts of the world. Why is it that we don't see a culture of investments in R&D in India? Why do we not have a slew of AI companies in India, given our installed infrastructure and our expertise in IT services? Or are they there, they're not yet just visible because of the size and scale that they're operating on? What needs to change for that to happen?
I believe that the change has to actually happen in higher education. So the change has to start there. The culture of research, innovation actually needs to come there. We've gone the wave of colleges, which is, you create IT, you educate IT professionals. Yeah. Y2K was our aha movement, and we rode that wave. And then things are changing. I think we've gone a full circle where we didn't have to do manufacturing, we didn't have to invest the kind of dollars that's required for research. But now more and more Government of India has also realized it, states have also realized the importance, so has the private universities. And Government of India is working hard in putting together the framework that will enable monies going into research, and Government of India also funding it. And as states, we believe that we have to offer the state as a platform for research. So that's where I think states have to become more a platform and not just a money givers. And that's probably one opportunity we need to look at. And few other initiatives that will actually promote research at that level. And a tighter private sector sort of an engagement is going to be very, very critical. So historically, for whatever reasons, we've always kept private sector engagement out of public universities. I believe that it's very, very important that they come partner in research, give challenges in terms of whatever problems that they're facing, and enable and fund that research. And that's making them partner of this entire ecosystem is going to be critical.
So over recent years, when it comes to government priorities in India, we've seen a larger proportion of government spending swing away from infrastructure and capex. Not that that is not continuing, that still is continuing, but it's moved more towards direct, sometimes more populist measures. Now, some of this is a function of, while India is 1.4 billion people or 1.4 plus billion people, there are still many of our countrymen and women who are very desperately poor and need this help. It's also in part because of the need to win elections. So how do you do this balancing act with a finite budget and many needs for that finite budget?
So I'm sure all of you would have heard, we should look at India from three different lenses. You have about 100 million people who have per capita income better than Mexico. You have about 250, 300 million people who have a per capita income around Vietnam, which is your aspiring middle class. And then you have 1 billion people who are under a per capita income of under $1,000. So we should not get carried away with the 400 million, but there is a problem. This is something that we need to work on. Welfare is not unique to India or only India's problem. Welfare is something that happens all over the world. If you look at agriculture in the US, even in Europe, it's supported by government subsidies.
Yep.
We talk about corn lobby, soybean lobby. They all start from there. It's huge. Saying that, I believe that welfare should not merely be a cash handout, but it should be enabled to pull people out of the cycle of poverty. So how can I bring about 1 billion people out of poverty? And that's where India has risen. So it's very important that as policymakers we target it, we use it effectively to pull them out of the cycle of poverty. So balancing welfare and development is going to be very critical. And as a state, we've done that. Our past regime didn't, we did it. So investments are going into capital, building out new ecosystems, getting more private sector investments into certain areas, using PPP as a model. And that's something that we've proven that it works very well. Hyderabad is a gleaming example of it. So we've done that, and we believe that carrying both together is going to be very critical. And only then can I pull 1 billion people out of the cycle of poverty.
Thank you. If it's okay, perhaps we can take some questions from the audience. There's a gentleman in white shirt.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. So, if you look at some of the countries in the Asian neighborhood, like Korea or Taiwan, etc., right? So they have, over the last many decades, built towards what maybe is playing fruit for them today. So, what are we doing, say, from the perspective of building national champions and more long-term orientation? To capture similar opportunities, because the advantage we have in the country is a large consumer market, right? So you can use that as a bait to incentivize investments and build national champions. So any thoughts on that? Because like as we see it, like in the next 1 or 2 decades, this AI-oriented intelligence orientation is only going to further accentuate. Thanks.
Absolutely, I think it's a valid question. Blue collar to white collar, we want all the jobs in Andhra Pradesh, right? And it's an example. Look at what we've done with Aslam Mittal. Government of India is clear. They are willing to support, but they want states to run. It's as simple as that. This project was stuck in other states for over 5-6 years. But Andhra got it done in about 13-14 months. The simple reason is, from the Chief Minister all the way down to the member of Legislative Assembly knows that job creation is the single priority. So our mandate to our leadership is very clear that no one can come in the way of creating jobs, period. We need to move fast. And that's really helped us. So I think we need to showcase more and more successes as we attract FDI investments to India. And that's where I think Andhra Pradesh has done definitely better. See, Google is the single largest FDI investment ever in Indian history. And I believe it's just the beginning. I believe India can do better, but it has to be led by the states. Coming to, if you look at, I believe strong East is very important. That's my personal opinion. And definitely I believe in working with our partners in the East. And it's not just about manufacturing alone. The way we've been approaching now, the way we're working with Singapore government is capacity building. All of us underestimate the importance of capacity building in government. So our ministers actually went for a week-long capacity building program to Singapore. I think 6-7 ministers went, and they were all cribbing that if they studied so hard in college, they would all be IAS officers. They are very good ministers. But, it was 8 to 8. They learned so much. Now they've come back and they're pioneering projects. So it is a very important need for us to build capacity. And so we can learn manufacturing from one country, a few countries. We can learn heavy manufacturing from Korea. We can learn, specialty manufacturing from Taiwan. We can learn governance, capacity building from Singapore. So I think each country has strengths, and as a nation, I think we just need to be open. We got a lot of criticism for sending ministers to Singapore. They said it's a vacation. It was anything but. But that's not going to stop us. So it showed us that we need to inform our citizens better. So we are not afraid of criticism. We'll take it. It showed us that we need to explain to our citizens that they've not gone there on vacation, they've not gone there for shopping, but they went there to learn. And whatever they've learned, they're actually now implementing once they've come back home. So it's important to do this. So I think we have a lot to learn from each country, and in a very different way.
Anything that is a constraint at a country level when it comes to the ideas that you guys have, or when it comes to, when people look at India first and Andhra as a part of India. So is there any major constraint that comes to mind?
So Mr. Naidu, as all of you know, is a hyper-optimist. He's just oozing with energy. And he's a person who believes that there are no constraints. And he believes that crisis is always an opportunity to transform, a nation and a state. Saying that, definitely there is a cost of democracy for growth. That's always the case. And it's very important to carry Bharat along as we go about chasing our larger dreams of being Vikasit Bharat. So I believe that it's important to take Bharat along. And that, if you looked at recent challenges that we've gone through and our neighbors have gone through, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, it's important to carry everyone along.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best.
Two questions from me. First is, you guys seem to be doing a phenomenal job. Like, when you compete on projects with other states, which are the other states that you compete with? And second question, which is Vikram's earlier comment on winning elections is equally important. We are in a time where people get swayed by, promises that are given out ahead of elections. Do you see that as a potential threat to winning whenever the next election is?
The first question, I just met the Honorable Chief Minister of Maharashtra before I came here. But with DF sir and a few other chief ministers in India, it's an amazing competition. And when states compete, India wins. There's a very clear line. I truly believe that we have seen the era of competition coming back all over again. If you all recall, it was S.M. Krishna ji and Mr. Naidu who competed, Karnataka versus Andhra competition, that got the best of both states. Now there are 3 more other states and we are competing. But at the same time, today when I met DF sir, I openly said, boss, let's complement each other. You have the West, you're conquering the West, I'm conquering the East. Let's learn from each other. So, we exchange ideas on how to use renewable energy for agriculture, the horticulture mission, because it's important not to forget Bharat. And we are still an agrarian country and more so an agrarian state in Andhra. We said, let's learn from each other on horticulture. I don't want to grow the commodities you're growing. I can do better, different, not better, but different. And what's the processing that you're doing? What can I learn? So that's where I see a lot more synergy that can come in. But competition is good. If you look at our neighboring countries where states have competed or provinces have competed, they've done exceptionally well. I believe we'll get the best out of ourselves if we compete. That's one. 2 is welfare here. I think the answer is yes. All of us are aware of it. Is welfare going to stay? Yes. But I believe that we need to transform it. As I said, it should be used as a tool to pull people out of the cycle of poverty. That is going to be very, very critical. So our Chief Minister has come up with this new project called P4. It's, all of you know P3. Now he's saying private people public partnership. So how can 1% of the society handhold people? And it's not about giving money out. So that's one thing. He's saying you nurture people, understand their aspirations, expose them to the world. The biggest challenge is exposure. Can you do that? Pull them out of that cycle of poverty. Once you bring that out, and once per capita income rises, and Andhra, due to bifurcation, we continue to have the lowest per capita income in South India, though we are far better off than other states, but we are still the lowest in South. And we want to be a $2.4 trillion economy by 2047. So I need to grow at 15% CAGR every year. So it's like a company, 15% CAGR I need to grow. That's how you pull people out of the cycle of poverty and reduce dependence on government. So that's the only way I see that we can move forward. That's where attracting investments are very important. That's where incentivizing the private sector to create more and more jobs is going to be very important.
Thank you.
Okay, a few very quick questions. So you spoke about reforms primarily to create jobs. How about reforms to bring cost efficiencies? Power distribution sector comes to mind. We all know it's a sector where industrial tariffs are very, very high, and it's a sector that needs fixing. So that's the first question. The second very quick one is that in order to create jobs, you spoke about 22 or 23 sectors that Andhra is focusing on. Given the benefit of
So the first question, you said reforms, I said single agenda is job creation and reforms should support it. Where energy plays a role. So if you look at it, Andhra Pradesh has reduced its cost of procurement of energy by 38 paise. We are the first state, as far as I know, to reduce power charges, power tariffs by 13 paise, 1-3. The CM's mandate to all of us is to reduce cost of production and distribution by 1 rupee. We are well on our way of doing it. It's about using the systems process, AI efficiently in reducing cost. So energy sector is one part, and reforms in energy sector is one part of creating 20 lakh jobs. So how can I compete on a sustainable basis with other states? I believe low cost of energy. It can be my strategic advantage. So that's something we're doing. On the creation of jobs using port. So a lot of us, we understand ports is a major job creation. Bulk cargo, container terminal is going to be very, very critical. Shipbuilding, ship repairing, even maritime defense. So there's a company called Sagar Defense. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. They have 80% market share, I think, of maritime defense in India, and they're creating autonomous maritime vehicles. I got them to do a project now in Andhra, and they're building now vessels to protect India, and they're going to export it for the rest of the world. So it opens up new opportunities in that sense. So that's where again comes back to the cluster-based development. So for me, it's not about peppering Andhra Pradesh for political convenience of projects across the state, but going very deep. And that's something that we're doing. So port-led economy is going to be very, very critical. 3 ports that we are now in the final stage of construction will be operational in the next 12 months. That will again create the next wave of jobs, as we say. Thank you.
Rahul?
Sure. Thank you for a fantastic session. Great vision, but even better execution, and God knows we knows good execution. My question is something about you touched earlier on data and availability of information. And if you take the adage that what gets measured gets solved, can you tell us a little bit about how Andhra, like I know you are one of the more advanced states on a data side, but generally speaking, what is the kind of information you guys see and how are you using it for problem solving on a day-to-day basis, right? Because there's one thing to do it from a policy perspective, but on a day-to-day basis execution, how's data become critical from your standpoint?
So that comes to my third ministry, or my third portfolio, which is called real-time governance. This is a ministry that cuts across all government departments, where we collate all the data from each department. We have a data lake. So we are unfortunately, we are having to do it all over again. We are rebuilding it. But the idea is that this becomes the central repository of data, and that enables us to take smart or intelligent decisions. Great example of that is agriculture. How do we do crop diversification? So it's a very simple thing. I'm a Stanford MBA, 2000 class of '08. 2006 December, we did this Bharat Darshan with all my Stanford fellow students, about 20 of us. Unofficial trip, we went across India. We went to our Chief Minister's constituency, and there's this very progressive farmer. He had about 25 acres. And 25 acres in Rayalaseema is actually a progressive farmer. So I asked him a simple question. I said, how are you so successful? So he said he sold land in different part of the state and came to Kuppam, which is the Chief Minister's constituency. Then he heard of, he sat down with the farmers. They all sit under a tree in the evening. And he heard about what everyone's going to sow. So if everyone's going to do tomato, he did the exact opposite. Simple AI. Very jugaad AI model. He did it. 25 acres, he had back then about close to, 30 cows. He had a dairy farm. He had a chicken shed and the whole 9 yards. It was all about simple power of data in that village, right? Now, we are trying to use that, harness that power, give advisory in terms of right water, right use of manures, pesticides, so on and so forth, and intelligent pricing of the commodity, right? And I'm not saying we mastered it, but that's an example of it. Now we're doing a huge program around preventive healthcare. It's called Sanjeevani. The biggest problem is, as Indians, we don't look at preventive healthcare. We only think about health when we get a headache or something is not working. Right? I'm sure all of us wouldn't have gotten our vitals checked in any recent time. But in Andhra, now we're making it a habit. So it's called Sanjeevani, where we're using preventive healthcare. I might be as bold as saying that our leadership wants to go an extra step where using our food for all scheme, we predominantly give rice, which obviously is one of the reasons why we have diabetes in its sense. That's where we want to now diversify. We want to give millets using all this data. And then how can I do preventive healthcare? I know the borderline. Can I intervene early on so that it doesn't become chronic? And it's a challenge, right? Once they become chronic, they are going to go into poverty. If you're a middle class family and you have a chronic problem, you will go into poverty. So that's why we're using data a lot better, creating a changing habit. So these are few examples. We use data on water. Our entire river water, our canals are all sensorized. Based on a weather forecast, we know how much water to lift to which part of the state. And we work on sowing early so that the cyclone season, we harvest before the cyclone season hits us. And lifting water is very expensive. It's very expensive. Irrigation is very expensive. So we're using the right amount of water to lift. So these are the interesting projects we're doing and using data effectively. And that again comes back to welfare. How can I use data effectively to target families to improve their per capita income outcomes? India looks at outputs. So like HRD, right? Our students coming to class, our teachers coming to class. Did we give our textbooks on time? Did we give our bags on time? Are we giving midday meal on time? These are very, very important outputs. I'm not saying no. But no one measures education outcomes. We are the first education department in India where the minister to all the way up to the headmaster looks at the same data, same KPIs. So I look at the same data as my principal secretary, to my commissioner, to my district education officer, all the way up to my HM. So goals are aligned.
Thank you. It's a breath of fresh air, and we much needed optimism in all these newspaper headlines that we see these days. Just a quick question. How do you think about when you are building out systems and institutions that can actually last electoral cycles? It would be, you mentioned about a project already which slowed down and then you are back in power and pushing forward for it. So it'll be good to hear.
Well, all of you need to get out and vote. It's very, very important that the voice of India also gets represented. This is very, very critical. Apart from that, capacity building and institutional building is something that I'm very passionate about, and we see that as a very important catalyst in the entire ecosystem. So the way we are doing it, and I don't know how other states are doing it, but the way we do it, it is we actually nurture young talent, the political talent, and also the government talent. So it could be the IAS, the IPS, and so on and so forth, where the chief minister meets, respective ministers meet. As an RTG minister and the chairman of a group of ministers, my interaction is a lot more with the younger lot of the officers. So it's important to bring them on board with the vision of the state. Because, see, I'm blessed because I have a great leader. I have a leader who I can go up and say, boss, I don't think this is right. I would love you to reconsider the decision. He'll say, okay, come, let's sit, let's have this conversation. So either I convince him or he convinces me. Very clear. So not every other state would have this, but we have that. So when you have a leadership who's willing to listen, it's important to stand up and say, maybe this is wrong. That is the capacity building that we need to do. 2, institutional capacity building. So we spoke about my education dashboard, right? When I had my first meeting with my district education officers and I showed them the data, a lot of them didn't even know the data. And if they had to get this data, they had to search on 10 different websites and try to put it all together. So how can you align the entire state on a single goal? That's capacity building. And give them the tools and measures and that can deliver on this promise. But the most important thing, see, all said and done, there is a cost of democracy in terms of growth rate. And the most important thing is, while we all have these conversations, we'll sit across the table and talk about areas that India needs to improve. It's important that all of us actually play a very important role in the political discourse. I'm not sure how many of you here want to join politics, but you should. This is something I speak a lot about. Why does it take only one Lokesh from Stanford to come be part of the change that we all want to deliver? All of us should be part of it. All of us should become activists in our own way. We should represent the voice. We should talk about it. Is it tough? Yes. Is it challenging? Yes. Does it require reform? Yes. If there's one sector that requires reform, it is politics. But then we have to be the change that we want to see in the system. So it's important that Gen Z comes in, Gen Alpha comes in, be as part of the political process. The most important thing here is, look at us as a political establishment. We are a 44-year-old political party. Our leader is Mr. Naidu. Yes, he's 75 years old man, but he has 3 25-year-olds in him. That's the kind of energy he has. But the most exciting data point I'll give all of you. 50% of our legislatures are first-timers. 50%. 17 out of 25 ministers are first-timers. So I am actually one of the senior ministers in Mr. Naidu's cabinet. It's not my grey beard, it's actually my second term. Now imagine the raw passion, energy that we bring in. If you're hearing about Andhra in the last 2 years that you didn't in the last preceding 5 years, it's because we bring that energy. We had an Anganwadi teacher who's become an MLA. We have a teacher who's now our home minister. She's our home minister, she was a teacher. So we have an NRI who's come back, joined politics, who has no political lineage in the background, who's now our MSME minister and minister in charge for NRI affairs. So there are opportunities. So it's important that you represent that voice also. So do join politics. We need educated, well-intentioned Indians to really drive the nation forward. And I see a lot of youngsters in the audience. It is your future as much as it is our future together. And you should be that change. And you can be the catalyst of that change.
Lokesh, I want to thank you on behalf of the audience and our clients for spending this time with us. And we wish you all the very best of luck in Andhra. All right, sir.
Thank you very much. Jai Hind.